Part 1. I used to think our life was ordinary in the best possible way. I worked in insurance, Oksana taught literature at the local school, and our evenings were a predictable loop of dinner, dishes, and streaming shows. 10 years of marriage had sanded down the drama, and I told myself that meant we were stable, not boring. When my friends complained about chaos at home, I wore our quiet like a medal. Part 2. Looking back, the first crack was small enough to ignore. She started bringing her phone to the bathroom, laughing at messages she never explained. Memes from the teacher's group chat, she'd say, face turned just slightly away from me. I believed her, because belief was easier than questions. The tiny, uneasy feeling in my stomach I dismissed as paranoia, the leftover insecurity of a man who had once been afraid he didn't deserve her. Part 3. Then came the late meetings, parent-teacher conferences that somehow ended at midnight, workshops held in random cafes across town. She would come home smelling of coffee and some faint cologne that wasn't mine, kissing me on the cheek as if punctuality were optional, but affection was not. You know how these things drag on, she'd sigh, dropping her bag by the door. I told her she was working too hard, but what I really meant was, I miss you, and I don't know how to say it without sounding needy. Part 4. The discovery itself happened on a Tuesday, the kind of day that should have died anonymous. Rain had turned the city into a smear of gray, and my head was splitting from fluorescent office lights. At home, I went through her bag looking for painkillers. She always carried some. That was when her second phone slipped out of the inside pocket and hit the floor with a thud that seemed impossibly loud in the empty kitchen. I didn't even know she owned a second phone. Part 5. My hands moved before my brain caught up. No password. The universe must have decided I deserved the truth, or maybe it simply ran out of patience with my denial. The messages were stacked like falling bricks. Last night was perfect. I miss you already. Little heart emojis, hotel addresses, screenshots of booked rooms, photos from hotel rooms I recognized by the wallpaper, but not by the woman smiling into the camera. She looked like my wife, but lighter, brighter, edited by happiness I'd never seen when she looked at me. Part 6. Time for a while stopped behaving normally. Minutes stretched and curled back on themselves as I scrolled farther and farther, watching almost a year of my life replay from a camera angle I had never known existed. There were dates that matched the nights I'd eaten alone, birthdays, staff parties, even the weekends she had claimed to visit her sick aunt. Each message rewrote a memory, and with every rewrite I felt a piece of myself fall away. Part 7. I waited until she came home. I didn't shout. The anger was there, hot and alive, but something colder held it in place. Instead, I placed the phone on the kitchen table between us like evidence in a trial. How long? I asked. Just 2 words, but they scraped my throat raw on the way out. The clock over the stove ticked far too loudly, as if it was curious about the answer too. Part 8. For a second, she considered lying. I saw the calculation in her eyes. Then something in her collapsed. She sat down, stared at the phone, and whispered, "Almost a year." I had imagined weeks, maybe a few months. A year shoved a knife into every memory, carving doubt into all of them. Our last anniversary, the trip to the sea, the lazy Sunday mornings. Suddenly, I wasn't sure which moments were real and which were simply the pauses between her messages to him. Part 9. Her explanations poured out in broken phrases. She felt invisible. She felt tired. She felt like a ghost moving through our home, seen but not really seen. He was a colleague who listened, who admired her poems, who remembered her favorite wine. With him I felt awake, she said, and I flinched at the implication that life with me had been one long sleep. Every sentence was a confession and an accusation at the same time, and I didn't know which hurt more. Part 10. Anger came late but violent. I slammed a chair back, the sound ricocheting off the tiles. So I was what? A roommate? An ATM? The guy who takes out the trash while you play soulmates after staff meetings? My hands shook so badly I had to brace them on the table. She cried, but I couldn't touch her. My skin felt too tight to hold compassion. I wanted to break something. to make the outside world look as shattered as my insides, but all I managed was to break sentences into hoarse fragments. Part 11. That night I slept on the couch, not because she asked me to, but because our bed felt contaminated. The pillow still held the shape of her head, a geography I had loved for a decade. I lay awake, replaying every kiss, every I love you, wondering which ones had been half-truths and which ones were just good acting. In the blue light of the TV, our wedding photo on the shelf looked like it belonged to strangers who had no idea what was coming. Part 12. Days blurred together. At work, numbers swam on my screen while my brain replayed scenes I'd never witnessed. Them sharing jokes over coffee, his hand on the small of her back as they left a classroom, the way she might have laughed for him, the way she used to laugh for me. I felt like an understudy who had been quietly replaced on stage without noticing. Friends asked if I was okay, and I lied with the same ease my wife had apparently practiced for months. Part 13. We tried therapy. The counselor asked what I wanted. I opened my mouth to say a divorce, but the words stuck, fossilized. Instead, I said, I want the truth, and I want to know if there's anything left worth saving. Oksana stared at her hands, twisting her wedding ring, as if hoping it might turn her invisible. Session by session, we dug through our history like archaeologists, uncovering layers of neglect, resentment, and unspoken fear that had been quietly fertilizing her betrayal. Part 14. Piece by piece, we reconstructed the ruins. She ended the affair, blocked numbers, changed schools, wrote a letter she let me read and then keep. None of it erased the past, but it marked a line between before and after. We talked more in those months than we had in the last 5 years, every conversation a surgery without anesthesia. Some days I saw a future with her. Other days I saw only the phone on the table and heard my own voice asking, how long? Part 15. In the end, I chose not to leave, but I also chose not to forget. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't a switch. It's a daily decision not to weaponize the pain, even when it still burns. Some days we laugh like we used to, cooking together, teasing each other about burnt toast and badly chosen movies. Other days, a certain song or hotel commercial on TV sends me right back to that Tuesday with the second phone. If there's anything I can offer to anyone standing where I stood, it's this. Don't ignore the small cracks. Ask the uncomfortable questions before silence answers them for you. Love is not a guarantee against betrayal. It's a promise to keep showing up honestly. I don't know if our marriage will last forever, but I know that from now on, I refuse to sleepwalk through my own life again.